At the end of a winding cul-de-sac in Pineview Grove, a serene suburban community, stood a tidy row of modest homes bordered by tall pine trees. A well-maintained sign reading Pineview Grove Homeowners Association greeted visitors, hinting at the local HOA's diligent oversight. Many residents found comfort in the consistent rules: neat lawns, uniform fences, limited noise. But beneath the pleasant veneer, tension could lurk. Into this pocket of calm arrived Emma Caldwell, a 30-something hospice nurse. She'd recently moved into a single-story cottage, so she could be closer to her terminally ill patients living in the region. Emma was mild-mannered, compassionate, and used to high stress in her job. Providing end-of-life care demanded empathy and resilience. She cherished the idea of a peaceful home base in Pineview Grove. Within days of settling in, Emma was introduced to the neighborhood's HOA, an organization that had a firm but mostly friendly reputation. Yet one board member, Marina Albright, cast a heavy presence. Folks quietly referred to her as Karen for her condescending scowls, abrupt demands, and unwavering conviction that her opinions were absolute truth. She was around 55, always dressed impeccably, carrying a clipboard on daily inspections. Residents typically tried to appease her or avoid her altogether. Emma first met Karen on a drowsy Sunday afternoon. Karen arrived unannounced at Emma's door, welcoming her by reciting Pineview Grove's many regulations: garbage can placement, permissible paint colors, lawn height limits. Emma listened politely, though the rigidity unnerved her. Karen took note of Emma's subdued personality, apparently concluding that Emma could be easily dictated to. Their interaction left Emma uneasy, but hopeful that maybe Karen was just thorough. Emma had no idea that her job as a hospice nurse, combined with a few innocuous misunderstandings, would soon place her in Karen's crosshairs. In the weeks that followed, Emma's routine involved early mornings at local hospice centers or private homes. She sometimes returned late in the evening, exhausted from providing comfort to dying patients and their families. On her porch, she might scribble notes about medications or emotional updates, phone calls with doctors or funeral homes. Karen, however, noticed Emma's unusual hours. She saw the nurse leaving at dawn some days, returning after dark. She peered out windows when Emma's car pulled in, curious about the quiet new neighbor. To Karen, any break from a standard 9 to 5 pattern seemed suspicious. She wondered if Emma was up to something. It didn't help that Emma kept to herself, seldom attending HOA events or block gatherings. Partly it was due to her workload and the emotional toll of her profession. She needed solitude to recharge. But to Karen, her aloofness meant she was unfriendly, maybe hiding something. On a warm Tuesday afternoon, Karen lingered near Emma's mailbox, hoping for a chat. When Emma arrived, Karen inquired pointedly about her daily comings and goings. Emma explained she was a hospice nurse, providing end-of-life care to terminal patients. Karen's brows furrowed. She seemed unimpressed. "How interesting," Karen said, her tone ambiguous. "We do have older folks around. I'm sure your services might be relevant." She gave a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Emma nodded politely, then excused herself. The whole exchange left her uneasy. She sensed Karen's suspicion. If only Emma knew how far Karen's curiosity would go. Soon, petty speculation would morph into malicious rumor. Emma's days often ended in tears, though rarely her own. She'd watch families break down by hospital beds or gather at a frail patient's home for final goodbyes. She offered medication schedules, comfort strategies, gentle presence. At night, the sorrow weighed heavily, but Emma reminded herself of the privilege in helping people die with dignity. Each shift left her drained, yet determined. She spent spare moments reviewing patient charts or returning calls from anxious relatives. Sometimes she carried gift baskets or personal mementos from families wanting to show gratitude. She'd store them briefly at home before delivering them to coworkers or passing them along to charities. Karen, however, noticed Emma occasionally bringing small boxes or bag from her car at odd hours. Observing from across the street, Karen's imagination spun. She recalled Emma was a hospice nurse, but in Karen's warped perspective, maybe those gifts were suspicious. She latched onto wild speculation that perhaps Emma took items from deceased patients or rummaged through their possessions. This baseless suspicion gnawed at Karen. She disliked Emma's quiet secrecy, in truth, mere privacy. She felt an urge to protect the neighborhood. A twisted notion took root. Maybe Emma was stealing from vulnerable, dying patients. The more Karen dwelled on it, the more plausible it felt to her, even absent any evidence. At an HOA coffee gathering, Karen hinted about a certain neighbor with an unusual job who might be acquiring valuables under suspicious circumstances. A few busybodies listened with scandalized curiosity. The seeds of rumor were sown. Karen's insinuations spread among the more gossipy faction of Pineview Grove. The gossip gained traction because Emma seldom socialized, and hospice care was a mystery to many. A rumor grew that Emma exploited dying patients. Some whispered that she pocketed jewelry or heirlooms left unguarded. Others repeated claims that she was secretly living off stolen goods. In reality, Emma's occasional boxes and bags contained items like crochet blankets from a grateful family or leftover medical supplies she needed to discard responsibly. But in the rumor mill's churn, these innocuous details became loot from the deceased. A neighbor, Ms. Dahl, who prided herself on investigating drama, pressed Karen for more details. Karen, not wanting to appear uncertain, embellished. "I've seen her with multiple packages at odd hours. Something is definitely off." She implied the HOA might need to keep an eye on Emma, for the good of the community. The rumors eventually reached the ear of James Moretti, a father of two who had always found Emma polite. He was skeptical but concerned. He quietly told his wife, "This is serious. If untrue, it could wreck Emma's reputation. We should verify." She agreed. They needed facts. Meanwhile, Emma sensed a strange vibe from some neighbors who once gave friendly waves but now seemed standoffish. She had no clue about the rumor's extent. All she knew was that Karen's watchful stares felt more intense, and a handful of folks avoided eye contact. As the rumor grew, Karen decided to escalate. She told the HOA board that multiple residents had confided concerns about Emma's alleged theft from terminally ill patients. She demanded the board look into it, implying Emma posed a threat to neighborhood values. The board president, Ron Thompson, was taken aback. "We have no evidence," he objected. "We can't simply accuse a homeowner of such a crime without proof." He insisted the matter was outside the HOA's jurisdiction. If Karen believed Emma was committing theft, she should contact the authorities. Unfazed, Karen told a few neighbors that she might gather her own proof. She started discreetly filming Emma's comings and goings on her phone, seeking any suspicious glimpse of items in Emma's trunk. She even lurked near Emma's property line, peering into windows from the sidewalk, though they gave her only glimpses of the living room. One evening, Karen glimpsed Emma returning with a small chest. Actually, it was a donated keepsake box from a patient's family, meant to hold farewell letters for staff. Karen snapped photos, convinced she caught evidence of pilfered valuables. She bragged to a friend, "I have photographic proof of her bringing in suspicious containers at night. Soon, everyone will know." But to her frustration, she found no actual gold or jewelry. The rumor remained intangible. Meanwhile, James Moretti, sensing injustice, quietly resolved to approach Emma directly. Maybe he could confirm or debunk the rumors himself. On a crisp Saturday morning, Emma stepped out to retrieve mail. She found James Moretti waiting politely by her fence, a concerned expression on his face. She'd seen him around, but never spoken more than casual hellos. He introduced himself, explaining he wanted to clarify swirling rumors. Emma's heart sank. She guessed the rumors must be nasty. With quiet composure, she invited James in for coffee, hoping to dispel the gossip. Over a simple conversation in her modest living room, Emma explained her typical day: visiting patients, receiving tokens of gratitude, disposing of unneeded supplies, and sometimes storing heartfelt gifts or letters from families. She shared stories of patients who left crocheted blankets to pass on, a mother who gave Emma a small porcelain angel as a token of thanks. Emma showed James this suspicious chest, revealing it contained only heartfelt goodbye notes from a recently deceased patient's relatives to the hospice staff. James was moved. He recognized Emma was far from a thief. She was merely a caretaker handling fragile emotional transitions. The rumor was baseless. He felt relief and anger that people could tarnish such a gentle soul. He thanked her for her transparency. Emma, though grateful, felt a wave of hurt. She realized how deeply neighbors doubted her honesty. James promised to speak out, telling folks the truth. Emma was no thief, but a dedicated hospice nurse. He believed most neighbors would accept facts once clarified. But Karen, the rumor's prime instigator, might double down. As James Moretti began quietly correcting neighbors, some apologized for jumping to conclusions. They realized Emma's behavior was consistent with a caregiver's routine, not criminal. Word spread that the rumor might be nonsense. Yet pockets of skepticism lingered. Karen had sown seeds widely. Simultaneously, an unexpected figure reached out. Diane Forbes, an older widow who often scorned Karen's meddling. Diane approached Emma after Sunday service at a local chapel, stating she'd overheard Karen boasting about documented evidence of theft. Diane worried Karen might escalate, perhaps contacting actual police or staging a confrontation. She wanted to help Emma prepare a defense. Emma was touched by Diane's empathy, though it saddened her that she needed a defense in her own neighborhood. She realized the rumor wasn't just petty gossip anymore. It could harm her professional reputation. If any families heard she was suspected of theft, it might threaten her hospice job. Together, Emma and Diane brainstormed. They decided to gather testimonies from the families of the patients Emma served. Many had praised Emma's integrity in writing. If Karen pressed false accusations, those letters could refute the claims. Diane also suggested Emma hold a small open house, inviting neighbors to learn about hospice work, hopefully quelling suspicion. With Diane's help, Emma felt less alone. The tension still weighed on her, but she saw a path forward: honesty, transparency, and a bit of neighborly outreach. Meanwhile, Karen grew frustrated that her rumor lost momentum. She decided a bold step might corner Emma: an official complaint to the HOA board, demanding an investigation into Emma's moral conduct. Although the board had no direct oversight of personal ethics, Karen insisted Emma's alleged theft from patients tarnished the neighborhood's good name. Board President Ron Thompson sighed upon receiving Karen's formal request. He reminded her that the HOA governed property rules, not personal behavior unless it broke local laws or impacted neighbors. Karen retorted that if Emma was stealing, it might bring police to the area, disrupting community harmony. Ron found her logic thin, but to placate Karen's fury, he put the complaint on the agenda for the next board meeting, letting the membership hear both sides. Karen looked smug, certain she'd present her photo evidence of Emma carrying items. She believed the board might censure or ostracize Emma, forcing her out. News of the pending meeting unsettled Emma. She dreaded a public forum where Karen could brandish twisted narratives. On the other hand, she recognized it as a chance to prove her innocence, backed by supportive neighbors and the heartfelt testimonies from patients' families. During that tense interim, James Moretti, Diane, and other supporters rallied behind Emma, collecting statements, encouraging neighbors to attend the meeting. They hoped that if Karen tried to humiliate Emma, the truth would triumph. A few days before the HOA meeting, Emma received an unexpected letter from the daughter of one of her recently deceased patients. Inside was a heartfelt note praising Emma's compassion, along with a request. Could Emma attend the father's memorial service to share how his final days went? The daughter wrote, "You gave him dignity. I'll forever be grateful. I wish everyone knew how genuine you are." Emma teared up reading this. It affirmed her calling, contrasted sharply with Karen's malicious rumors. She decided, with the family's permission, to share an excerpt at the HOA meeting, illustrating how her packages included only items entrusted to her by grieving families. Word of such letters spread among neighbors who previously believed the rumor. Hearing actual families speak of Emma's honesty changed many minds. A wave of empathy rose. Some decided to attend the upcoming meeting specifically to defend Emma. Even a few who once found Karen's rumor plausible realized they'd been misled. Meanwhile, Karen noticed the tide shifting. She resolved to double down with hard evidence. Late one evening, she posted on the neighborhood forum, claiming she had photos of Emma hauling suspicious boxes. She teased a big reveal at the HOA meeting, determined to overshadow Emma's personal letters. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. On a Thursday evening, residents packed the small community center for the monthly HOA meeting. Usually, these gatherings covered budget updates or landscaping issues. But tonight, a buzz of anticipation filled the air. The rumor about Emma had polarized some neighbors, though many had since swung in her favor. The board took their seats, Ron Thompson at center, flanked by 4 other members, including Karen. After routine business, they reached new complaints. Karen seized the floor, clearing her throat. She launched into a monologue about unneighborly conduct that threatens our peaceful environment, accusing Emma of taking advantage of terminally ill patients. She displayed a few blurry phone photos of Emma holding boxes or bags. Karen dramatized each shot. Here, you see her carrying a heavy crate late at night. Who knows what valuables are inside? And here, suspicious chest on a different day. She demanded Emma produce a full inventory of these items and prove they weren't stolen. Some in the audience frowned. The pictures proved nothing, just normal boxes. Then Emma stood. Her voice shook but held conviction. I'm a hospice nurse. I have never stolen from anyone. I often carry items families give me, like crochet blankets or personal mementos for donation. I have letters from patients' relatives praising my care. She read an excerpt from the daughter's letter, tears quavering in her voice. Emma gave my father hope, eased his pain, handled his final wishes with respect. The hush in the room was profound as Emma read the heartfelt gratitude. James Moretti rose next, stating he'd personally investigated the rumor, visited Emma's home, and found no wrongdoing, only gestures of kindness. Another neighbor stood, testifying that her mother was once in hospice, and Emma's approach was typical of a caring nurse. Karen tried to retort that the letters and personal stories could be faked, but the atmosphere had turned. The crowd murmured disapproval. Diane accused Karen of heartless slander. The board members, seeing no tangible evidence of theft, frowned at Karen's accusations. Finally, Ron Thompson declared the HOA had no basis to censure Emma. We find these allegations unfounded. Ms. Caldwell is a valued resident, contributing positively. We apologize for any distress caused. A wave of applause erupted, while Karen's face stiffened in defeat. In the aftermath of that dramatic meeting, Emma received an outpouring of relief and solidarity from neighbors. Some delivered homemade meals to her doorstep with notes like, "Thank you for all you do." Parents told their children about Emma's role helping terminally ill patients. A new appreciation for hospice work spread, spurred ironically by Karen's slander. Moreover, a broader conversation arose about honoring caregivers, nurses, home aides, hospice staff, who quietly serve the vulnerable. James Moretti proposed an idea. Why not host a block event celebrating local caregivers? We can highlight Emma's contributions, plus any other nurses or aides living here. The notion resonated strongly. Many realized they took such caregivers for granted. They formed a small committee to plan a Caregivers Appreciation Day, perhaps a parade or gathering. The entire neighborhood could join, from children making thank you posters to seniors sharing stories. Emma initially felt shy about the spotlight, but recognized the potential to educate people on hospice care's importance. Karen seethed. Her attempt to ruin Emma's reputation had backfired spectacularly, prompting a wave of praise for nurses. She retreated from public commentary, ignoring the swirling excitement about a possible parade. But the neighbors pressed on, enthusiastic about turning negativity into gratitude. A flurry of activity overtook Pineview Grove. The newly minted Caregiver Parade Committee, led by James and Diane, met in Emma's living room brainstorming. They envisioned a weekend afternoon, a short parade route along the main street, with decorated golf carts or floats. People could hold signs reading, "We heartsuit our caregivers," or "Thank you, nurses and hospice heroes." They also planned to invite actual hospice organizations or local hospital representatives. Possibly Emma's co-workers could attend, forming a small float to represent palliative care. The local high school band might perform, adding celebratory flair. Emma, though flattered, worried about overshadowing other caregivers. She insisted the parade celebrate all who care for the sick or dying. The committee agreed wholeheartedly. They arranged for a short opening speech acknowledging the countless quiet heroes who helped families through tough times. As word spread, sponsors emerged. A local bakery offered cupcakes, a print shop donated banners, a craft store provided sign materials for kids. Even the HOA board, minus Karen, voted to endorse the parade, letting the route pass through common areas. Ron Thompson joked, "Karen's attempt to blacken one nurse's name has turned into a neighborhood festival praising nurses." Meanwhile, Karen watched from the sidelines, helpless to stop it. She might not attend, but the event was unstoppable. Her rumors had galvanized a far bigger outpouring of love for caregivers. As the parade date approached, homemade floats took shape. Families draped wagons with balloons. The local middle school cheer squad promised a short routine. Children painted thank you posters. Some older folks crocheted nurse-themed patches to pin on shirts. The entire neighborhood bustled with creative energy. Emma's co-workers were thrilled to join. They'd never expected such public gratitude for their behind-the-scenes hospice work. They planned a simple float, a small trailer with a bed representing hospice comfort, staff wearing scrubs, a sign reading, "Hospice, compassion in life's final chapter." Emma, modest as ever, insisted she'd just stand among them, not hog attention. Karen strolled around, scowling at the messy streets of painting activity, leftover balloon scraps, or children rehearsing chants. She considered filing trivial complaints about excessive noise. But the board ignored her whining, telling her to let neighbors celebrate. Frustrated, Karen confided to a friend, "They're making a saint out of that nurse." The friend, tired of her negativity, gave only a half-hearted nod. Despite Karen's gloom, the rest of Pineview Grove brimmed with positivity. The rumor about Emma had fully reversed into widespread admiration. People recognized how essential hospice care was, how vital all caregivers were. Karen's negativity shrank into irrelevance in the face of communal excitement. Saturday arrived with bright skies, mild temperature, a perfect day for a parade. By noon, Pineview Grove's main road was lined with residents setting up lawn chairs, some wearing T-shirts proclaiming, "We support our caregivers." Children fluttered around, waving homemade signs. The tang of barbecue drifted from a neighbor's yard, hosting a post-parade potluck. Participants queued at the starting point, a cul-de-sac near the entrance. Emma's group prepared the hospice float. Another float honored local nurses. A golf cart decked in pink and white recognized breast cancer caregivers. Banners read, "Thank you, medical heroes," and "Caregivers are angels on earth." At 1 p.m. sharp, the parade began. The high school marching band kicked off a spirited tune. Floats rolled forward slowly, children cheering. Families applauded, some with tears in their eyes. Emma, standing on a hospice float, felt overwhelmed by the outpouring of love. She glimpsed neighbors who once eyed her suspiciously, now clapping and smiling, holding signs that said, "We believe in you, Nurse Emma." Karen, from her window, watched the procession pass. The crowd parted joyfully for the floats. She glimpsed Emma's float, seeing the nurse wave humbly. A wave of guilt twisted in Karen's stomach. She recognized that her malicious rumor had indirectly sparked this wave of gratitude, and it made her feel both resentful and regretful. Still, the parade marched on, unstoppable in its celebration. When the floats reached the community clubhouse, The participants parked around the lawn for a brief ceremony. A small stage was set up with a microphone. James Moretti introduced Emma's co-workers, praising their dedication. The crowd roared in approval. Next, the local hospice director shared a moving reflection on how hospice care ensures patients' final weeks are dignified, emphasizing that none of it would be possible without nurses like Emma. The audience listened intently, some dabbing eyes. Emma took the mic last, voice trembling with emotion. She thanked everyone for supporting not just her, but all caregivers. We do this work because we believe in easing suffering, giving comfort. I'm so touched that you see our efforts. Every family we help, it's an honor to stand beside them in tough times. Tears glistened in her eyes. Applause thundered. Even stoic bystanders found themselves applauding wholeheartedly. The atmosphere rang with gratitude, unity, and a sense that Pineview Grove had forged a deeper bond in celebrating these unsung heroes. Off to the side, Karen loitered behind a small group, arms folded. She watched Emma's heartfelt speech, her fists clenching. She felt overshadowed, her negative claims fully discredited. Yet a flicker of realization dawned. Perhaps she was indeed at fault for slandering an innocent woman. She gave a small, reluctant clap, not wanting to appear entirely callous. After the ceremony, neighbors mingled, congratulating Emma and other caregivers, snapping photos, exchanging stories. A sense of joy spread among the crowd. The potluck commenced, with neighbors sharing casseroles, barbecue, and sweet tea. People wrote sticky notes of thanks on a large banner labeled Caregiver Heroes. Emma's co-workers were surprised by the scale of appreciation. "We're used to working behind closed doors," said one nurse. "It's so heartwarming to be publicly recognized." Many approached Emma personally, apologizing for ever doubting her. One older woman admitted she believed Karen's rumor at first, but realized how off-base it was after hearing the testimonials. Emma graciously accepted apologies, relieved to have her name cleared. Karen, lurking at the edges, realized she'd lost the neighborhood's ear. People no longer gave her conspiratorial nods or asked for gossip. Some politely ignored her, others eyed her with mild disapproval. For once, she found no receptive audience for her negativity. She felt adrift, overshadowed by the jubilant crowd celebrating Emma. James Moretti, seeing Karen, approached diplomatically. He thanked her for coming. She offered a stiff smile, murmuring, "It's quite the spectacle." He gently responded, "Sometimes good arises from misunderstandings. Let's all move forward." She nodded, not quite contrite, but out of options to continue her vendetta. In the days following the parade, Pineview Grove bustled with talk about how Emma's nurse story had taught them not to judge prematurely. The rumor was overshadowed by this grand show of solidarity. The HOA board, relieved that tensions had resolved peacefully, shifted focus to routine matters. Karen found herself uncharacteristically subdued at board meetings, no longer trumpeting Emma's alleged wrongdoing. She recognized that pushing further accusations would damage her standing. Some board members privately suspected Karen had orchestrated the rumor, though none had direct proof. One evening, as Emma returned home from a late shift, she found Karen waiting on her front walk. Emma's heart fluttered, uncertain if another confrontation loomed. But Karen's posture was less aggressive. She quietly admitted, "I might have jumped to conclusions. I spread rumors I believed at the time. Maybe I was mistaken." Emma raised an eyebrow, calmly replying that she appreciated any acknowledgement of error. Karen hesitated, glancing at the ground. "I see now you do important work. I regret the misunderstandings. I just wanted to keep the neighborhood safe." Though it wasn't the warmest apology, Emma sensed Karen was making an effort. She thanked Karen for speaking up. Karen offered a curt nod and walked away. For Emma, it was a partial closure, enough to confirm that the worst was behind them. Meanwhile, the goodwill from the parade extended beyond Pineview Grove. Local hospice clients heard about the community's thank you event, thrilled that their caregivers were honored. Families of patients Emma served began sending thank you cards not just to her, but to the entire neighborhood that recognized hospice work. One letter from a grieving widow read, "I lost my husband last month. Nurse Emma's compassion was a light in our darkest hour. Hearing a neighborhood celebrated her, and others like her, reminds me that people do value quiet, life-saving work. The outpouring of messages reaffirmed Emma's dedication. She found renewed energy for her job, buoyed by supportive neighbors. When she visited a new patient, the ice was broken by them referencing the local news about a nurse whose neighborhood had a parade for caregivers. Emma would smile, acknowledging that was indeed her. Karen, peripherally aware of these letters, might not have changed her entire worldview, but she no longer felt impetus to smear Emma. The wave of positivity around hospice overshadowed her negativity. She began focusing on mundane HOA tasks, ensuring the new playground mulch met standards, revising lawn care guidelines. Despite the parade's success and Karen's quasi-apology, a small faction of neighbors still harbored lingering doubts. A certain busybody, Ms. Leary, cornered Karen one afternoon. "Are you sure we shouldn't keep an eye on Emma? People can hide things well." Karen, once a champion of suspicion, felt a pang of guilt. She realized continuing the rumor gained nothing. "I think that matter's settled," she responded tersely. Ms. Leary pressed. "But you had pictures." Karen shrugged. "They proved nothing. Let's move on." In that moment, Karen recognized how draining it was to feed paranoia. The parade had taught her a lesson, albeit grudgingly. She left Ms. Leary unsatisfied. Meanwhile, Ms. Leary approached a few other gossip lovers, but found them uninterested. Everyone else had moved on, celebrating Emma's innocence. The rumor's dying embers fizzled. At the same time, Emma got wind of Ms. Leary's inquiries. Instead of feeling threatened, she felt compassion. She realized that some people cling to suspicion out of fear or restlessness. She decided to remain open, continuing her quiet, honest lifestyle, trusting that the bigger wave of support overshadowed the few clinging to negativity. Weeks passed. One morning, Karen was walking around Pineview Grove, clipboard in hand, checking if trash cans were promptly returned from the curb. She noticed Emma's front yard had some overgrown shrubs. Nothing egregious, but slightly above code. In the past, Karen would have snapped a violation notice. This time she paused. She recalled how Emma had endured so much from slanderous rumors. She thought of the heartwarming parade, the heartfelt letters, the community's outpouring of love for hospice care. Did she really want to nitpick Emma's shrubs? Sighing, she decided to let it go. Instead, she left a gentle note in Emma's mailbox. "Hello. Your shrubs are a bit tall. The HOA guidelines permit a higher threshold if it's not obstructing the walkway. Just a reminder." "Thanks." It was the mildest approach Karen had ever taken with a code infraction. She didn't threaten fines or sabotage. A small gesture, but for Karen, it was a step toward normal neighborly relations. Emma later found the note, read it with a faint grin. She saw it as a sign that Karen was learning to handle things with courtesy, not hostility. Though Karen didn't morph overnight into a friendly ally, her aggression lessened. The community took note, some remarking that the Emma fiasco might have softened the iron will of Karen. People relaxed around her. Tension receded further. Life in Pineview Grove settled into a new equilibrium. The success of the Caretaker Parade inspired more community-minded events. A small group formed to sponsor monthly gatherings, like collecting donations for local hospice facilities or delivering homemade meals to families dealing with serious illness. Emma, along with other healthcare workers, occasionally gave short talks on living wills or how to navigate end-of-life decisions. Neighbors realized how many among them served in caring professions: nurses, social workers, physiotherapists. They started a bulletin board listing folks available for informal advice. Emma became a quiet local figurehead of empathy, her gentle presence sought by neighbors in crisis. Karen, though never publicly admitting wrongdoing, refrained from undermining Emma again. She occasionally glimpsed Emma from afar, carrying a small hamper of crochet blankets or potluck trays for a new hospice patient. Sometimes Karen felt a pang of discomfort, recalling her baseless smear, but she was too proud to fully apologize in public. Nonetheless, The rumor's final effect had ironically boosted respect for caregivers. Many recognized how precious hospice nurses were, how humiliating false gossip could be. They vowed to remain supportive and vigilant against unverified rumors. Between her renewed sense of belonging in Pineview Grove and the unwavering appreciation from families she served, Emma found strength to handle the daily emotional toll of hospice care. She sometimes invited close neighbors to help deliver baked goods to patients who lacked family. This further connected the community to the real experiences of end-of-life challenges. Her home became a cozy haven, with crocheted blankets from grateful families draping her sofa, photos of smiling patients pinned on a memory board. She always asked permission to keep such photos or tokens, cherishing them as reminders of each life she touched. When Emma occasionally recalled the rumor fiasco, she felt gratitude for the many neighbors who rose to her defense. The entire ordeal, while painful, had ended in a wave of compassion. She forgave those who briefly believed Karen's lies, understanding how easy it was to be swayed by fear or misinformation. Karen's name rarely crossed her mind now. If they passed on the sidewalk, Emma would offer a polite wave, receiving a stiff nod in return. It was enough. She no longer needed Karen's approval, only the knowledge that the rumor had died, replaced by rightful respect for her profession. While Karen remained on the HOA board, her influence waned as more open-minded members joined. President Ron Thompson introduced monthly neighbor spotlights, showcasing positive community stories, like Emma's hospice success or a local teacher's achievements. The board also launched an official rumor-busting policy. Any complaint must be substantiated with evidence before becoming an official agenda item. This was partly to prevent another fiasco like Emma's. Karen, seeing the board's new direction, adjusted her tactics. She focused on tangible tasks like maintaining the neighborhood park or dealing with real code violations, rather than fueling personal vendettas. She even found a semblance of peace in occasionally approving requests for new projects, like ramp expansions for older folks or home modifications for disabled residents. Of course, Karen's personality still bristled at times. She was never known for warmth, but the board's balanced approach reigned in her extremes. The memory of Emma's rumored scandal served as a cautionary tale. Petty slander could unify the entire neighborhood against you. Autumn arrived, bringing crisp air and falling leaves. Pineview Grove's color-coded curbside displays made the neighborhood appear postcard-ready. This year, the HOA planned a harvest festival, inviting local artisans, hosting a bake-off, and encouraging local charities to set up booths. Emma, at the urging of friends, volunteered to staff a hospice awareness table, handing out brochures explaining their mission. On the day of the festival, families milled around, sampling pies, sipping cider. Emma's booth drew steady interest. Many had no idea about hospice's range of services. Some recognized her from the caretaker parade, approaching to say thanks or ask about advance directives for elderly relatives. Emma spoke gently, offering resources. Curiously, Karen also attended the festival, though she hovered near a decorative display. At one point, she meandered toward Emma's booth, listening as Emma explained to a senior couple the difference between palliative care and hospice. The couple expressed relief at Emma's calm clarity. Karen found herself, for once, quietly impressed. She realized how Emma's suspicious packages were truly items of comfort for those at the end of life. Karen left the festival with an odd sense of contrition. She never voiced it, but deep down, she recognized Emma's role in the community was positive, far from the menace she once portrayed. The mild tension between Karen and Emma lingered, an unspoken history of rumor and near ruin. Yet the final months of the year found them coexisting with no further friction. The neighborly environment improved so much that Pineview Grove felt more cohesive than ever. In mid-December, a neighbor named Harriet Harris, who faced her own battle with an advanced illness, requested Emma's assistance in planning hospice support at home. Harriet also needed permission from the HOA for an indoor hospital bed and a ramp on her property. Typically, Karen might have resisted such additions. But to everyone's surprise, she quickly approved Harriet's request, referencing a medical necessity. Word reached Emma, who was helping Harriet arrange care. She realized Karen had contributed to Harriet's comfort by fast-tracking the ramp approval. Perhaps Karen wanted to quietly rectify her past hostility. Emma felt a twinge of gratitude. Harriet eventually shared that Karen had visited her, expressing sympathy. She still didn't display warmth, but politely recognized Harriet's needs. This subtle shift suggested that the caretaker parade, the fiasco with Emma, and the wave of compassion had softened Karen's hardened stance on medical accommodations. Encouraged by Harriet's ramp success, James Moretti suggested replicating the caretaker parade next spring, making it an annual event. He brought the idea to the board, which happily endorsed it. They wanted to preserve the spirit of celebrating nurses, hospice workers, and all caregivers. Emma was touched by the plan. The first parade had been an emotional roller coaster, overshadowed by clearing her name. A second parade, free from scandal, could purely champion caregivers. Maybe local home health agencies, hospice centers, and volunteer groups could join. Karen, informed of the idea, did not oppose it. She recognized the popularity of the caretaker theme. Instead, she remained silent during the board discussion. Some members, noticing her lack of protest, realized she'd finally accepted the new, more empathetic direction. As the neighborhood prepared for holiday gatherings, the seeds were sown for a grander caretaker parade in the spring, likely bigger and more polished than the first. Emma, more at ease, felt a sense of closure. The rumor fiasco had receded into memory, overshadowed by a new tradition of gratitude. In January, the winter chill settled on Pineview Grove. Emma continued her hospice work, sometimes driving in snow to reach patients. Long nights, short days, the sorrow of end-of-life care weighed heavily. But memories of the caretaker parade and the neighborhood's supportive stance buoyed her. She no longer worried about suspicion or sabotage at home. She arrived home late one icy evening, stepping on her porch to find a small gift basket of tea blends with a note. For those cold nights after a long shift, thank you, Nurse Emma. No signature, but Emma guessed it was from James Moretti or Diane. She felt warmth fill her heart, reminded again how the rumor had backfired, forging deeper community bonds. That same night, from across the street, Karen glimpsed Emma carefully carrying the basket inside. Instead of speculating about stolen goods, Karen felt a pang of regret. She recognized the difference between actual suspicious behavior and a thoughtful neighbor's gift. She turned off her lights, quietly acknowledging that maybe Emma was living proof of compassion's triumph over rumor. As spring approached, Harriet's condition worsened, but with Emma's help and the newly installed ramp, Harriet remained at home, comforted by family. Emma visited frequently, ensuring Harriet's final weeks were peaceful. Harriet told Emma how grateful she was that the community, once steeped in rumor, now cherished end-of-life caregivers. One afternoon, Harriet asked Emma if she felt resentment toward Karen. Emma admitted she'd struggled with anger but found it draining. Harriet nodded, remarking that forgiveness can lighten burdens. Emma realized Harriet's wisdom. Carrying grudges wouldn't serve her or the community. She resolved to let go, focusing on the bigger picture of unity. That same day, Harriet quietly passed away in her sleep. The entire neighborhood mourned. At Harriet's memorial service, families praised Emma's unwavering kindness, the new caretaker culture in Pineview Grove. Even Karen showed up, offering a brief but sincere condolence to Harriet's relatives. In Harriet's memory, the caretaker parade was renamed the Harriet Harris Memorial Caregiver Parade, a gesture symbolizing how supporting caregivers was now woven into the fabric of Pineview Grove, no longer overshadowed by rumor or hostility. Late April brought warmer breezes, blossoms on the trees, and the second caretaker parade, now a formal fixture in Pineview Grove. Banners reading Harriet's legacy, "We honor all caregivers," adorned the main street. This time, the parade was bigger, with multiple local hospice agencies, hospital staff, and volunteer organizations forming floats. Emma rode on a float with her hospice co-workers, wearing fresh pastel scrubs. The crowd lining the street was even larger than before. Children perched on shoulders, families waved signs, older folks clapped vigorously. The high school band returned, playing upbeat tunes. The atmosphere felt celebratory and deeply heartfelt. James Moretti gave an opening speech, dedicating the event to Harriet Harris and to all unsung heroes. Diane read a short poem about the dignity of caring for the frail. Then the floats rolled forward, dancers twirled, cheers erupted. Emma, no longer mired in scandal, glowed with pride as neighbors chanted, "Thank you, nurses. Thank you, caregivers." In the crowd, Karen stood near the back, not brandishing negativity. She watched quietly, arms folded, occasionally clapping. Seeing the wave of positivity swirl around Emma, she felt a strange relief that her rumor had not destroyed Emma. Maybe the community truly was better off. As the second caretaker parade concluded, the residents of Pineview Grove recognized how far they'd come since Karen's initial rumor about Emma. Where once suspicion reigned, now appreciation blossomed. Emma's dedication, validated by families, overcame slander with truth. The entire neighborhood, once mired in the negativity of gossip, rallied behind a cause bigger than any single rumor. Respect for those who help the dying find peace. Karen's attempt to smear Emma ironically led to the nurses' even greater recognition, culminating in 2 parades and an enduring tradition of honoring caregivers. While Karen never publicly admitted fault, her hostility dissolved into reluctant acceptance. The HOA, re-energized by the spirit of compassion, embraced inclusive policies, ensuring no neighbor faced baseless accusations again. Emma, for her part, thrived in Pineview Grove, forging genuine friendships. She found it heartening that a place once tinted with rumor could become a bastion of support. Her hospice patients gleaned indirect benefits, too. Neighbors frequently donated comfort items or volunteered respite care. A kinder, more empathetic environment took root, overshadowing the memory of ugly gossip. In the end, the caretaker parades became an annual highlight, shining each spring. Families invited hospice workers, nurses, and home aides from across the region to attend. The entire fiasco with Karen's rumors faded into an anecdotal footnote, overshadowed by a greater truth. Unity and gratitude can conquer fear and slander. Emma's story proved that compassion, championed by neighbors, will always triumph in a community that stands together.